Welcome to the Thoroughbred Network. We are a regular podcast to feature a member of the equestrian world and their relationship with the thoroughbred. In this episode, we are joined by international jockey Tom Marquardt, which was recorded earlier this year at the William Inglis Hotel in Sydney. We discuss his humble beginnings in pony racing to becoming an established Group 1 winning jockey, the ups and downs of his career so far, and his most recent success here in Australia. All right, Thomas, I'd like to welcome you to the Thoroughbred Network. Thank you so much for joining us.
Not at all. Thank you for having me.
Now, I met you last year, which was actually your second stint in Australia, because you had a first stint sort of quite early on in Melbourne, and then we've seen you come to Sydney, and then this is your third stint, which I think will be fair to say you've hit the ground running. Yeah,
it's been pretty unreal, but yeah, like the first time I came was obviously a few years ago. I was still an apprentice. I came over to save my claim, albeit to hopefully ride a couple of winners. And like David Hayes and Tom Dabney, before I even got on a flight, they stuck me on a sort of it was like an even money shot on a Saturday for Sheikh Hamdan. And I was mind completely blown. And luckily he won, and he actually backed up and won again like 2 days before I was leaving. So completely by chance, I managed to ride two City Saturday winners for Sheikh Hamdan for David Hayes and Tom Dabney. But yeah, it's kind of like starting from scratch coming up to Sydney, because like when I went into the tower last year with John, no one knew my name, no one knew who I was. And it's kind of made it all a nicer experience for the fact that, you know, we started from scratch, and it's been relationships that have been built from sort of nothing as such in a relatively short amount of time.
Super. Now, we know you as a professional jockey, but let's bring it right back to how you first got started, because this is something that I feel that we need to promote better, getting young people in racing. And I think how you got involved in racing, it's a little bit foreign to the Australians, because it's something that's quite up and going now in Britain. But we see you sort of you didn't come from a horsey family, did you?
No, I sort of had small, normal horse links, but not racing at all. Like Auntie and Granny were they were, you know, farm orientated, riding mostly. My auntie did a bit of eventing, and Granny did a lot of dressage. But like that was all done and finished by the time I was sort of old enough to ride. But yeah, like, so there's a bit of a farming background there with the horses, but literally nothing to do with racing.
And you were so did you live near Cheltenham?
Yes, so that was like, to me, that was probably the catalyst for the interest in racing and sort of wanting to get involved. But yeah, I don't know, to be honest with you. It was a really weird one, and from such a young age, like I was convinced that was all I was going to do. So I couldn't honestly say where it came from.
It's pretty amazing, because it's a sport that's not always, we're on the TV a lot, obviously, but it's not a sport that's always out there for people, and doesn't look as attainable as plenty of other sports that we see that are, a lot of sports now are sort of integrated at school, aren't they? You see sort of track and gymnastics and things, but racing's quite away from that, and you've sort of got to find your own way, really, unless you're sort of born into that. So you really, how did when we started hearing your name, or when Britain started hearing your name, was on the pony racing circuit. So how did you get involved in pony racing?
Yeah, similarly, again, it was sort of a bit of a weird one. Like obviously growing up near Cheltenham, there was racing families around, and that I don't know, obviously I had a bit of a love for speed as a kid, whatever, no matter what sport, whether it be skiing or you know, it's turned into riding. There was sort of friends around from Pony Club, from normal riding, that were doing a bit of pony racing. Sort of probably the main ones would have been like John Joe and AJ O'Neill, John Joe's sons, obviously. And I had a good friend, Jake Launchbury, who went on to ride as an amateur for a bit, and Bertie Bent, who actually grew to about 6 foot age 14, and he had a 12-2 pony. And so that was the first pony I had pony racing. It wasn't mine. I just was completely obsessed with it. And Martin and Sarah, his parents, were absolutely unreal, and they just literally sort of went, treat him as your racing pony, ride him for the season, and that's what sort of got me initially into it, and I think that kind of persuaded mum and dad that I was serious about it, and it wasn't just sort of on a whim, kid being a kid, oh, I'll do something for a year and then suck it off after. Like, it was, I think it proved to them that I was willing to do what it took to try and make it a proper career. Yeah, exactly. But no, it was. And then at the end of that season, we bought a racing pony for the next year, and sort of the next couple of years, I did all of that. But
so what age were you when you first what age were you first riding in a pony race?
I would have been 13, which is quite late. Like,
yeah,
it's not late, but it is quite late in English terms.
I had a look, I think they kick off from 9 years old, don't they?
Yeah. So the point-to-point circuit was where I had most of my rides, because we weren't going out spending big money on ponies or anything like that. They were nice ponies, but I was doubling them up as jumping pony club, whatever. Galloping them around fields flat out. That was them. But yeah, so I was mostly point-to-point circuit, pony club, which you can start 9 years old. Basically a free-for-all. The ones that are probably more likely to become jockeys have a big weight advantage because there's no set weight.
Yep.
So, like, there was me, 13, probably 5 stone something, riding a little whippet, 12-2. They go, I probably won't even say it, but they go like the clappers. They're little racehorses. So it was a nice introduction and an easy introduction, but at the same time, it sort of has enough of a similarity to racing to just break you into it.
Yeah.
Without scaring you off.
Yeah. So when I had a look at the pony racing, I think their first race was ever almost 2004. And then the PRA, which is the Pony Racing Association, formed and kicked off quite seriously from 2007 onwards, which they now are a very serious organisation, which they see lots of kids come through the Pony Club. And we've seen some fantastic names. We also have George Wood out here in Australia. Now he came through pony racing as well. And obviously, one of your leading ladies in your life, Holly Doyle, your gorgeous partner, also came through pony racing. She actually won her first race at 9 years old, didn't she?
I didn't know quite that young, to be fair, so I wouldn't know, but we weren't far off. Yeah, no, that's actually how we met as well. So
it's through pony racing. You met
racing.
Holly. So with pony racing, is it in height order?
The ponies sort of categorised between, like, most points at the weekend would have a 13-2 and a 14-2 division. There'd be 2 races either before or after, and yeah, it's a nice sort of relaxed theme, atmosphere, and you don't, the expensive proper racing ponies weren't really about. Yep. So it was sort of the same crowd of people, but everyone helped a lot because mum and dad didn't really have a clue what was going on, albeit they were entirely supportive of what I was trying to do, but they didn't really know what was going on. So there was a lot of people involved in just sort of helping everyone go through the day and staying alive and not falling out. But yeah, it was a really, like, they're fond memories to look back on because I had a good time. I made some really good friends, and to be fair, most of the kids that I pony race with are now still riding, and yet most of the people that I went to racing school at a later age aren't. So I think that proves how much of a sort of foundation and solid base of, I don't know whether it was work ethic or just it gave you a bit of inspiration at a young age to carry on through. Like, it really did help a lot.
Well, because when you ride these pony races, you run racetracks.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and there's an element of jumping her flat out, but the more involved you get, like, I always used to force my parents to buy the DVD, like, a point to point, so you buy the DVD of the replay, and every single time, if I won or lost, I'd always make them buy the replay. I think it must have cost them an absolute fortune, probably more than my ponies were worth altogether. But and I'd go home and like, I'd watch them over and over and over, and I loved it. And I guess that's sort of the initial basis of the development of your riding. Like, I've got pictures genuinely where at 14 I looked more stylish than I look now. Like, and I'm not just saying it. I look like Husey on a racing pony, like tucked up neat. I don't ride like that at all now. But it's kind of nice that you can you can mess about. I rode too short sometimes, I rode too long sometimes, but it didn't matter because there's no pressure. It was my pony. No one really cared, but it felt like everyone cared. So it was a great environment to just sort of play about and develop the base of race riding, really, I think.
Yeah. And so when you did that, did you, so you obviously went to the racing school later in life. Did you go to the racing school with pony racing as well?
Yeah. So they basically try and pick you up as early as they can, which is great. Again, it's kind of putting you on the right line of developing without the bad habits. But yeah, I mean, I think that was where me and Holly actually probably first started going out at age, I don't know, 13, 14, whatever. I don't know. But like they do an Easter camp and a summer camp, and then they have an advanced camp as well. So when you're just about to break into racing after pony racing, you get invited on the advanced camp if they think you're someone that's likely to make a career out of horse racing. So they, you know, to have been chosen for that was major, because I was nothing to do with horse racing. My family weren't in racing. So while I went on the Easter week camp, which was great, age 14, 15, getting selected, I think there was 8 or 9 people on it, with the likes of John Joe O'Neill and people like that. I know now it seems ridiculous that I used to think like that, but you know, those are the people that I was sort of, I'm not jealous of, but like, you know, I wanted their life. Yeah. Like, you know, if my dad was a trainer when I was 14, or if I was to do with horse racing, that was like the dream. To be included in that and to be thought of in that regard, like, I think it gives you a big sort of morale boost, and like the thought, you know, I might be able to do this, like I might actually be able to do it. And yeah, it's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
The British Racing School, for those who are listening who haven't been able to experience that, it's in Newmarket, and it's a fantastic institution for education for young people. So they actually do, as well as the pony racing, they do like a 9-week free foundation course to get people in, and they teach us everything from getting to know a horse to getting it ready for race day, for preparing it, which is, it's imperative that we have that in our industry, isn't it? But what a fantastic institution. So you came through the British Racing School, where you were taught, you'd have ex-jockeys there, you'd have lots of support for basically everything from looking after your pony to your riding style to sort of, and being in amongst that environment with those racing boys must have been so much fun for you. And to sort of get that inspiration from them, I think would have been amazing. So at that point, so you sort of got into pony racing, and did you ride ponies up to 16?
So I rode ponies up to 15, and because we couldn't really afford to go full blown on it and you know, get a good pony, it was kind of like I had 3 or 4 years, and it was really good and great. But I kind of reached a point where I was like, like there's something more that I want. Like I want to do something more. I want to sort of expand my horizons a little bit and sort of play around a bit with it before I go into racing properly. And Arab racing was sort of a good option because you could do it at 15. You can use a stick, and obviously they're notoriously pretty difficult. So while I was riding out at yards, you know, I rode out quite a bit for John Joe O'Neill because he was local. I rode out very regularly for Giles Smiley, a small point-to-point trainer, and Tony Carroll from sort of 14. I spent virtually every weekend there, and the school holidays. Like, there was kind of there needed to be a natural progression, and like Arab racing was a good option because, you know, it was just a whole nother side to riding that I hadn't had yet. And while we might not have a stick at some point in the future or whatever, it was always something that the Irish pony racers seem to have over the top of the English ones going into racing. Like Irish young lads were coming over and they looked like a jockey straight away. Whereas English was still, you know, while pony racing was helping a lot, it was kind of getting us 3/4 of the way there. And then there was still that element of, you know, we didn't know how to use our sticks properly. We weren't 100% fluent with it, whatever, because we hadn't had the experience. And Arab racing, I think I only had I don't know, maybe 30 or 40 rides altogether. But because I didn't have to own one, I could ride other people's. It was good because I was riding loads of different horses, loads of different racetracks, and it was an experience. Everyone knows they're tricky, but you know, it was good. It was good because it took it even more to the next level of, you know, it's actually on race courses proper. I know pony racing was quite a lot of the time, but you know, you had to be the right weight. It's just race course procedure down to a T, just with Arabs. So it was good. Yeah, it was good.
And so at what point did you sort of sit down and say, I'm going to leave school and this is going to be...
Oh, like that was from like 6, 7 years old. Like that was it. That was all that was happening. There was nothing else. Which again is so weird to think of, like not having the racing blood there as such. But yeah, much to parents' dismay, it was.
So what was your parents' reaction to when it really came to crunch time, where Tom said, "So this is it now"?
Like they always properly supported it, but there was quite a while where I guess any parent's natural reaction is, is this actually feasible? Are you going to manage it? Or like, but that's naturally a parent's reaction to anything. You know, you don't want your child jumping headfirst into something and getting 2 years down the line and, you know, not having any qualification. Like I did all right in GCSEs, but nothing else, no A levels, no college, no university, and not getting anywhere, and then going, what next?
Yeah. Like,
I suppose it must have been quite hard for them, but yeah, luckily it paid off in the end. Just.
So you've came out and you've said, I'm going to go gun-ho and I'm going to go and do my apprenticeship. So did you have to go to the race school, do your apprenticeship first, or did you align yourself with someone to back you on that?
Yeah, so I lined up with Andrew Boulding. I went for a month in the summer to go just ride out for a month with a view to hopefully sort of get offered a job, or, you know, that was like my dream. And I had a month there. Andrew very kindly offered me a job to be his apprentice, which I thought was unbelievable. And then Holly's dad, actually, who was apprentice for Richard Hannon when he was 15, 16, he said, no, you're not going there until you've been to Hannon's. He said, if you go to Hannon's, don't like it, go to Andrew's, do whatever you want, but you have to go to Hannon's first. I'm not letting you go there otherwise. And I was like, all right, whatever, different experience, I'll go there. And I think I went like the week before Christmas. It was snowing, miserable, cold, whatever, but it was just like, it just suited me. Like I'm quite laid back, chilled out. I don't know. I always knew what I wanted to do, and I always sort of had a rough idea of how I was going to do it, and it wasn't through messing about or going and doing stuff I shouldn't have been. You know, I was pretty focused. So they literally threw me in a house with a couple of older lads and just said, yeah, Sam, do your work. Yeah. And it worked for me.
So to put it into perspective for people, how many horses does Hannon have in training?
Probably 270, 270.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of horses.
But what was your first day walking in there because, you know, we've walked into to a yard here that's been a big part of British racing and a family that's been so successful. Walking in there as young Tom, being an apprentice, were you at all phased walking in the front gates?
Well, weirdly, I don't remember being sort of that bothered by it. I don't know why, but I mean, yeah, by chance, I think like that first week I rode Lamato as a yearling, like up the gallops, because obviously it's a predominantly 2-year-old yard, so in the come December, you know, they're starting to do a lot more with the 2-year-olds and starting to ramp it up a bit. Yeah, I think like I rode Lamato by chance, but when I actually properly started, I think that was when it hit home what kind of a job I had. Like my lots each morning were like, well, I don't know, probably a lot of Australians won't even recognise them, but for what it's worth, like my lots were Sky Lantern, Tiggy Wiggy, Night of Thunder, Estacar, Olympic Glory, like it was nuts. and you know, literally on my 3rd, 4th day there, those are my lots for the morning, worth like, I don't know, between them probably like 5-6 mil. and I mean, that is like,
It's pretty amazing.
that's at that point in time, that was it. Like, that was unbelievable. I was so happy, but you know, it was always, goalposts always change, and you know, after a couple of months, I suppose that kind of wears off, and then I was very lucky in the fact that Richard applied for my license, and Steve Knight had a big part to play there, who's ex-Grand National winning jockey. You know, he pushed it a lot, that they applied for my license while I actually went to America for a month with Tom Morley and Maggie, who were absolutely amazing. And that was actually Steve's idea, instead of starting and spending a month there before I went back to the racing school for a month to legally be able to leave school and all that. So like that was the biggest leg up to the start of my career that I could have possibly wished for. And yeah, coming back to a job that obviously I knew it was a great job, but like that was just.
So what did you think of America? Because that would have been another completely kettle of fish to head out there. They're quite. Would a lot of their horses all work around the dirt?
Yeah, so all of them are on the dirt, or well, for the majority. I barely rode much on the turf, but so I did 2 weeks in Belmont, 2 weeks in Saratoga, and like I live with Tom and Maggie, and they treated me like their son, and it was like the best thing I ever did, because it just sort of opened my eyes a bit that there's more outside of British racing, and I think that's why I'm so willing now to, you know, I love travelling with riding, and hence why I'm here. I like going to Qatar or whatever and places like that, but it kind of, it opened my eyes a bit, and spending a month out there on different horses, and it's a completely different way of riding. Anyone that's been out there can say that. It was a good experience, and did me a hell of a lot of good, like a hell of a lot of good, and it helped me mature fast again, and again, all it did was cemented the fact that I knew that was what I wanted to do. So like, I think up until I actually started riding, everything was just, each step up the ladder to sort of solidify my thought process in this is what I'm doing. And everything that happened along those few years from the start of pony racing really solidified it all.
So you've came home, you came back to Annans, and we're now about to kick off your apprenticeship. I'm nervous for you.
Yeah, no, do you know what? It was mad, because I think I started on 5th of September, had my license like 5-6 weeks later, middle of October, and I remember Steve, like, we'd canter first 2 lots, and the last 2 or 3 lots would only trot around the ring. I remember Steve coming up to me a couple of mornings, I think I've got you on one. I think we've got a ride for you, and I'd be absolutely buzzing for the rest of the morning. And then I'd look at declarations, and you know, I think there was 8 apprentices there when I was there, and you know, one of the other apprentices was on it, or you know, someone else or a jockey had ended up on it, and like for a couple of weeks it just kept happening, and then he said, and then obviously he came again and said, like, look, you're riding this, I promise. And I was like, I was so happy. And coincidentally, my first ride was called Here for Good, which was a pretty good.
There you go.
Yeah, it was a pretty good name. But so that was for Richard at Lingfield in an apprentice race.
So what year was that?
That was 2014, sort of end of November.
Okay. How did your first ride go?
I ran all right. Richard's obviously had a lot of apprentices.
What was you feeling in the gates where you were like, this is it. I'm in the gates and I'm about to jump my very first race ride. Like, a lot of what's been happening before is built up to this point. What was going on in your head at that point?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember. Like, I don't really get nervous or anything, and I don't remember being nervous but I just think it was another step where I thought
that you were ready to take.
You know, this is the next step. I don't know whether it's. I don't know how people feel like that.
I think if it was me in the gates, I'd be going, oh my God. Oh my God. What did you tell me to do again? Am I going back? Am I going forward?
No, but that's where Rich is great. And that's where being an apprentice at a big yard that know how to deal with apprentices is perfect, because I think, you know, before I rang him on the way there, I had to get a lift from my mum because I was only 16 because I couldn't drive still.
She must have been so proud.
Like, it was a nice day for her, I suppose. But and my dad came. But I think he literally just said, I was like, hi boss, what would you like me to do on him? He said, just make sure you look good. And that was it. Like, good luck, cheers.
Wow.
But that was probably the best thing that he could have said, because, you know, instead of going out thinking, right, I have to be box seat 2 wide, not 3 wide, whatever, didn't think about anything. I just jumped out, relaxed, gave it a normal ride, whatever that was, tried to look good on him, and all went smoothly.
So where did you finish in your first ride?
I think he was like 6th, 7th, midfield. But it was like a first step into
being a part of this.
What has been a mad few years, really, when I go back and think about it.
Then, so you had your first ride, and then 3 weeks later?
Yeah, it'd be about 3 weeks. Yeah, it was sort of mid-December.
And that was for the boss, for Hannah?
Yeah, that was for the boss. I think it was a 4-runner seller, odds-on favourite. Jumped out, made the run in.
Was mum and dad there?
Do you know what? I can't actually remember. How bad is that?
Your mum will remember.
Yeah,
That much.
I have a feeling. That they weren't. But yeah, like, straightforward as he come. He put me on a steering job to ride a winner. Do you know what I mean? That was literally it. But no, I was delighted to get it out of the way, because obviously once you start getting a few rides, it's kind of like, you just want to get a winner. Like, that's all you want.
So there was 8 other apprentices in the time in Hannons. What was that like? Was it dog eat dog, or were we all friends?
Yeah, like, we were all mates, and you know, it was a good atmosphere. But so there's 2 yards,
Right.
though. So, you know, I think there was only myself, Josh Quinn, and so there was 3 apprentices down at Everley, and the rest of the apprentices were all up at Herridge, which is like a 5-minute drive away. But they operate as 2 completely separate yards. So really, like, until I started trying to get rides, I wouldn't have even noticed the fact that there was so many apprentices, because it was like you didn't really have anything to do with them. So although you're in a huge yard, it doesn't really,
Very
the atmosphere.
professional run yard, isn't
Yeah,
it? So you're turning up to a top dog place at work. You're sort of there to get your job done and get it done well. And what a lot of people sometimes don't understand is British racing is a sport that it came around a very long time ago. So there's just we have a lot of tradition there, and a lot of draped in history, and we're almost, you know, the boss is the boss, and the rest of us will speak when we're spoken to, and we're here for the horses, and the horses is number one. And I think that's such a great for any young person in any sport, in any profession. I think that's a really amazing foundation to start your life as your working life. Actually, I think that's what racing definitely brought me, and I think for you to be an apprentice in such a big stable that was run so well has been a fantastic moulding for you, really.
Yeah, definitely, and it definitely instills sort of a work ethic and respect for what other people are doing, like, and what you're willing to do to get to where you want to be. Because,
and so where was Holly at this point?
So Holly was at Dave Evans's, and she had a year and a half riding. Sort of, I think she rode for about 6 or 7 months as an amateur. Her first ride was a winner. Coincidentally, earlier in the day, right by where she's from, I chinned her brother on the line in a pony race, and we jumped straight in the car, ditched the ponies of my mum and dad to take back to her house, and drove down to Salisbury, which must have been like 2.5 hours. I went down with her mum and her brother, and she had her first ride that evening for Dave Evans as an amateur, and it went and won. So yeah, she had a dream start.
At least you were there for her first win.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it. But yeah, that was the start for her, and she had a few months riding as an amateur. Changed to apprentice. Must have done about a year and a half of riding, and then she actually moved to Hannons as well. Her dad decided to get her the job there in the end.
There we go.
Yeah, he got me there first, but yeah, no. So she moved down. You know, it was a next step in the career. Obviously, Dave was great for her and laid a great basis of work ethic. You know, he's not an easy taskmaster. You know, he made her work for everything that she got, and it's something that she's carried on through in her mentality, even like to this day, and I can't imagine it'll ever change. Yeah. So it was obviously a great grounding for her, and yeah, Hannon's was just sort of like a next step. You know, you need to be in a big yard around a lot of other apprentices to sort of show who's willing to make it and who wants to make it. And
that added pressure makes diamonds, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
It's not always a nice atmosphere, but just having the people around you as well just help pick you up and you sort of learn from them. How amazing is that? Both of you in there at Hannon's.
Yeah. It's weird, eh? But no, and we started living together probably, I don't know, maybe 6 months after that. But we'd already been together for
quite a few years.
2 years before that. So, yeah.
Is there any food in your house?
Oh, there's always food in my house, sadly. Holly's terrible. No, she's not terrible. She so she can eat whatever
she can eat.
She wants.
Does very well with her weight.
Yeah, and she works hard in the gym to put on weight. Equally, I run a lot and spend a lot of time in the gym to lose it. So it's very different. Like sort of, I suppose yin and yang. No, look, everyone always says, "Oh, it's she can't eat around you." I cook dinner.
You get used to it, really, don't you? Because this is your life. This is the lifestyle you chose. And everything that you do is very sort of not strict and regulated, but you have to be very committed to what you do. So I suppose it just becomes a part of your life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's part and parcel of the job.
So your first year in apprenticeship, what happened?
Obviously, I had a pretty good start. I think I must have ridden just shy of 20 winners before the start of the season proper, which starts. So officially starts Doncaster, which is usually at the end of March. And I actually, all of my winners in between my first and my 20th winner were for outside trainers. Oh. So my first winner was for the boss and my 20th winner was for the boss, which looking back now is a bit mad because, usually you need your boss to sort of get you up going, get the momentum up, and then other people start using you. But I was so lucky in the fact that I had a great agent who just grafted from day one, and I've still got him today, Sash Wrighton. But I don't know, people just seem to pick me up and support me, and I was really lucky with the opportunities I got so early. I think I rode a winner for the Queen for Roger Chalmers, £7 claim. It flicked up on Facebook, I think it was yesterday, five years ago yesterday, I had my first ride for Godolphin. How lucky
Dreams
was I?
made
Yeah, how lucky was I really? And then I had my 20th winner just at the start of the season at Newbury for the boss. Again, it was a very quick progression, I guess it still is really.
That's getting tried for the Queen.
Yeah.
Does it get any better from British racing?
No, exactly. I mean, it's mental to think, and I think I think Roger was putting me on horses for Khalid Abdullah and people like that. It was just ridiculous. But it was more so, I think, a lot like from an early stage, and I don't know whether it's to do with Sash or what, but I've been so lucky in the fact that I've always had a wide base of trainers that have been happy using me, and I've always been happy to sort of try and keep it that way, because I think it's very easy to focus in on one trainer, one owner or something, and it makes life hard when it starts going wrong. Whereas having a wide base of trainers, has been probably pretty pivotal in the last couple of years. Having such a wide base, having so many horses that are there to be ridden at some point or another, you can't not ride winners if you're riding for that many different people on that many different horses. Like law of averages, you can't.
You strike one every now and then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when you're lucky. Yeah.
And so those who are listening are not aware. What is the role of your manager, of your agent, your jockey agent?
So sort of in England, it's a pretty involved role. Like over here, in Australia, everything's done first Saturdays, like 2 weeks before. You're booked up. Once you're booked, you can't get off them. In England, it's free for all compared to what it is here. Like, it's, 10 o'clock declarations, 2 days or 48 hours before the race. People are jostling about for rides. People are changing from meeting to meeting because it's not like here where you have a city, a provincial and country definition. Set. It's like, your champion jockey will be going to Wolverhampton and Chepstow and Bath, and so there's a lot of fiddling about at last second, and a lot of times it works against you, a lot of times it works for you.
So he's basically on the phone.
So literally, agents in England are just on the phone, flat out organising.
And then the name of the game for him, really, taking abuse probably. The name of the game for him is to get you on the best horse in every race, which is a tough go, because I know we've got betting markets that help indicate what we're doing, but where trainers place horses and where they're at in their prep, are they first up, are they at the end of the prep? So it's a tough go. And also you've got to ride horses that you can ride in the weights, the handicaps as well. So you see them, you can be limited sometimes, can't you?
Definitely. And I think in England it's there's a lot less focus on, like say, over here there's a lot of like where they're on their prep, how they've trialled. Yeah. But it's like that in England we don't have the trials. You have no pointer as to how a horse is going. Like it could have run to a mark of 100 on its last run 6 months ago. That's not to say it's fat and hairy still, and it might only be capable of running up to like 70, which puts it 25 lengths behind the horses in the race. There's no way of knowing. So that's where Sasha's role is very important, because building trust with trainers and the relationship with trainers to have the honesty of they might want to book you for a horse, but Sash can turn around with a lot of them now, and I know he can say, is it ready? Like, really? Is it ready? Or is it just having a nice introduction back in, having a nice first run, getting it all the way fit again to then kick on for the rest of the summer? Because, horses go for 6, 7, 8, 9 months in England. It's not like here at all, where they get sort of a few
4 or 5 runs.
Exactly. Relationships are important in that time, because we don't have Charles to point us in the right direction.
And now, does he just look after you? Does he look after anyone else?
He's got a few jockeys. Actually, coincidentally, George Wood.
Oh, there you go.
Who's over here, yeah.
It's too less on his boots at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's had a quiet winter. I think he's pretty thankful, to be fair. But no, he's got I think maybe 5 or 6 jockeys, and he's been pretty keen to keep it a small team, because obviously, like I was lucky when I started doing well. Other apprentices then go, oh, well, that agent's had a champion apprentice, I want him. But he's been very selective in who he's taken on. Like he took on George not too long after me, and he's got Sean Levy, who's also a jockey at Hannon's. He's done very well to sort of get the team he's got without breaking ranks or annoying anyone, or it's a tough.
That's me. You really have to have a lot of people, because you guys as athletes, don't look to be in a team. It's you and the horse on the day, isn't it? But there is actually a lot going on behind the scenes. You need the support from the trainers, and you need your manager to be on the same even keel with you to get you at the right place at the right time, really. So if we go to your first season, how did your first season end?
Yeah, it was it was obviously a big breakthrough year, and I started the year obviously I rode quite a few winners, but I don't think you don't realise what you're managing to achieve at the time, until you look back on it, obviously. But I don't know, it just kind of accumulated or sort of escalated, should I say? And I got to sort of 2 months to the end of the season and was like, we might actually be able to be champion apprentice here. and genuinely, everyone was going, oh, have you not thought about it until now? And I was like, well, no, because you're not thinking about it. You're just kind of going day to day, trying to ride as many winners as you can. And it kind of just became a possibility. And in the end, it was pretty tight. I only won, but I think I won by 2, and I rode a winner on the last day. So, you know, if it had gone the other way, Jack Garrity, who was second, had ridden a winner out of drawn. So, like I say, element of luck, but it was a long first season. Like I only started driving halfway through. Sort of my birthday was at the end of March, and I got my license. Like I think I took my test 4 days after, just to make sure I got it, because I was so sick of not being able to drive.
So who was driving you before that point?
So mum, dad, other jockeys. Like everyone's great in racing.
Poor mum and dad. They thought they were buying this pony for a fun weekend, and they were now married to this industry.
Driving me miles.
Yeah, right. You couldn't have just gone to university somewhere far away.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's it. But like everyone's great in racing, you know. So like wherever you go in the world, there's that sort of community, and the other older jockeys, you know, they ran me about here, they were everywhere for the first few months, and you know, I repaid quite a few lifts when I started driving. But actually now, while it's probably one of the harder things about the job, I actually enjoy it, because it's kind of like you get in the car after a day's racing and you can just switch off.
Defragment.
Like, you just sit in the car. If you want to listen to something, listen to something. If you don't want to listen to anything, don't listen to anything. Like that's, as long as you've got a nice comfy car, you can just drive home. And that's when I try and just, that racing done for the day. Like that's, you know, it's done. Go home, and that's my
replays
time.
Another day.
Yeah, I'd watch replays before I go home, and because I think it's easy to, you know, any walk of life, you can take work home with you, and it can impact on your home life and your mentality, and sort of, I think it creates quite a tough environment at home, especially because both of us are jockeys. Like if we took work home every day, it would be a nightmare, because every day Holly has a good day, I have a bad one. Every day I have a good one, she has a bad one. So it's like neither of us would ever be happy, because if we took work home every day, it would be like, oh well, I'm annoyed today.
Sad.
Oh well, I'm annoyed today. Like it doesn't work. So yeah, like cars are time to switch off, so I enjoy that bit.
So it wasn't long after that you got the title, and then you were actually nominated for BBC Young Sports Personality of the Year.
Yeah, it was.
Mum and Dad must have been like, this paid off. This pony that we got all those years ago has done something. Now, how many? So from the young Personality of the Year is 17 and under, yes?
Yeah, I believe so.
And so how many other apprentices of jockeys have been nominated for that?
I think I might be wrong in saying, was it Sean or James Bowen were nominated for it this year? But before that, I think I was the first one from racing, which is, again, ridiculous to think. And I definitely did not appreciate how much it sort of meant at the time. But like, I was only doing what I wanted to do. Like 100%. It was just through sort of my passion and what I wanted to achieve in my life, that it kind of just happened. Like it just.
Such a great advertisement for racing, though, isn't it? Because a lot of people who don't follow racing probably aren't aware. Like, other people just see jockeys on TV, don't they? They probably don't act, and they all look so small that you wouldn't have a clue if they're 40 or 14. So I think just having an apprentice being a young sports personality would have been amazing for the industry, and I think that's a massive accolade, Tom. Like to do that and to put your sport on the map that way was amazing. So very well done to you. I thought that was a little bit jealous. Not that I could be nominated for anything, but I thought, oh, it's kind of cool, wasn't it? You got to do something that really meant something.
Yeah, it's but like, yeah, it was quite funny. I actually found out when we were on holiday in Thailand, because like it had been a long year, and I thought, you know what, I need a break. So like I flew, or me and Holly Holly and I went on a holiday to Thailand for 10 days, and like I was led on a beach, got a phone call. Like I'd virtually turned my phone off for the whole week just to really be able to switch off, and I got a phone call. I was like, oh, what? And that was how I found out, and it was like, what? Yeah, what? You joking? What? But yeah, it was funny. Like on a holiday and that, like I think it was that holiday. It might have even been the year after, which is even more embarrassing. Like, we went to go and get kayaks or something to go out over the reefs. I think it was the next year in Mauritius, like, and they were, oh, we need your parents to sign. I was like, nah, like,
This is it.
This is my holiday. I paid. No one's here. And no, it's quite funny. But we have it every year wherever we go. Like this year, we went to like a secluded island in the Caribbean, and like we walked up to them, and they were looking at us like, "Really? Like, really?
You do by yourself?"
Yeah. Like, we both looking at 12. But yeah, that seems to be a running theme throughout our lives.
Oh, fantastic! That actually must be a bit of a laugh in your days. So that's amazing. So you've been nominated, and you've came back for your second season, which was equally as successful. Just missed out.
Yeah, obviously my second year I actually had the apprentice title in my sights because I'd done it once. I thought, right, I can't think how many winners I had exactly. I must have had maybe 25. So I kind of had enough to get me going, but I knew it was going to fall short. Like the year before, I think I went out on 54, 55. So, I needed to ride another half without a claim, which is notoriously the hardest part of a jockey's sort of career, breaking through, whether you manage to lose your claim and carry on riding, or you lose your claim and you're forgotten about. So I had it in my sights before the start of the season, and no one. I think the last person that managed it was 1988, Gary Bardwell, I want to say. So it's something that hadn't been done for years, and I thought, you know what, that's something I'd love to do. Like, went hell for leather from the start. My claim ran out in, I think it was June. So I had another 3 or 4 months left of riding without it. And then halfway through August, I got a phone call from the BHA saying, "Oh, you're going to have to renew your license in, I think it was 5 or 6 weeks' time, whatever it was." And I was like, "Well, all right, but I got to renew it as a professional because I'd written out my claim. And your next renewal, you have to renew it as a professional, not an apprentice." And I was like, "Oh my God, my winners aren't going to count." Yeah, I was like, "My winners aren't going to count." It just was something that was completely not even on my radar. It wasn't on anyone's radar. It was gutting because it was like I'd spent the whole summer sort of booting on, thinking, this is mine.
I can get this.
I can do it, yeah. And then going, "Oh, by the way, your last 2 weeks aren't going to count." And like from the year before, the last 2 weeks was like where I want it. And I knew from then like it was going to be hard work. But yeah, obviously Josie had a cracking summer, and my license ran out. I think we were level when my license ran out, or maybe I was 1 behind or 2 behind. So it was still close. Like with 2 weeks of riding, you can ride 14 winners in 2 weeks. You could ride 1 winner in 2 weeks. Coincidentally, obviously, Josie rode a few winners in the last couple of weeks and won it, which was pretty disappointing way to lose. If I'd have been beaten sort of fair and square to it, you kind of go, "Oh, well, I'll give it a go." Yeah. But it was a pretty bad way to get chin, because like it's But the biggest thing I was worried about was carrying on riding after my claim, and I was just delighted that I was still rolling along with the momentum that I had, and I carried on then through that winter. I think I had 3 weeks in Dubai riding for Sheikh Ahmed, but I was still riding every day, and I was still riding winners, and that was all I cared about. Like that was it.
And so then at what point? So what year was that you did? You finished your second year?
That'd have been 2016.
Okay.
16? Yeah, I think. Yeah, it must have been, yeah. 16.
And so all that time, you've still stayed with Hannon, and he's continued to support you from day dot, which is amazing, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, because like going into a big yard like that, a lot of people sort of go into the system and get spat back out because it's nature of the beast, I suppose. Not everyone can make it. If everyone made it, there wouldn't be anyone at the top.
Really,
yeah,
isn't
exactly. There? And I was one of the really fortunate ones. I got my breaks when I needed them, and it worked. And obviously both Richard Senior and Richard Junior, because it was sort of at the period where Richard Junior had taken over the license 2 years before, but the old man, whether I call him the old man, I don't know if he likes it or not. I don't know. That's what everyone calls him, but it's Richard. But like he was still there making a lot of decisions, as was Richard Junior. And I don't know. I mean, like I was still putting in a lot of time and effort there. Like I carried on working as an apprentice about 6 months after I lost my claim. Like, I was still mucking out 4 every morning, going in, riding out as many lots as I could possibly do before going racing, even stables, Sunday stables. And that was sort of a year after I was champion apprentice. So like I was still in the stage where, you know, I wanted to show that I was willing to work for it, and I didn't want to be a bit of a flash in the pan, because that's what a lot of people kept telling me. Oh, you've ridden out your claim too quick, you'll be gone. And realistically, it probably does happen to a lot of people, but it wasn't nice to hear, and I just made sure that I worked hard enough that it wasn't going to happen to me. So
what was your main contact for coming out here to Sydney? So how did that eventuate?
Yeah, so Tom Ward, who again was sort of pivotal in my time at Hannons, as an apprentice. And
so what was Tom's roles at Hannons?
So Tom was assistant trainer to Richards.
Okay. And then we've met Tom when Tom has come out to Australia.
Yeah.
And he was assistant to John O'Shea when he was at Godolphin.
Yeah, and like John, I've not heard John plug many people, but like Tom, I don't know what he did. He must have been good at his job or something, because John loves him. And equally, I mean, at Hannons, obviously I was there I think he was there for about 4.5, 5 years nearly. Like that's a long stay as an assistant trainer to anyone. And, you know, he did his job to an absolutely unbelievable sort of rate of, success. I don't know whether it's success, whatever, but, like he made my life a hell of a lot easier, and, he was great to have around there. But yeah, I'd done the winter at home. I'd gone a year and a half, just over, without my claim. You know, I'd proved that I was keeping my momentum up, and that I wasn't sort of going to be gone. Or I hoped it wasn't. But like, I kind of wanted to do something a bit different, because you can stay and ride in the winter, and while it's brilliant riding winners for people that support you, you don't learn anything. You're not improving, and you're not broadening your horizons or changing the way you ride by doing so. And I thought, you know, what I could do is doing something different. And I was all for going back to David Hayes and Tom Dabney in Melbourne, because I thought, you know, I got on great with them. They gave me unbelievable opportunities when I was there. So I was like, that'll do. That'll be perfect. And Tom sort of swayed me to come to John, and I wasn't overly convinced, to be honest. Okay. Like, I was still thinking, I made a mistake. I should have gone to David and Tom. Like, what have I done? You know, because I'd sort of established a bit of a base there before. Like, I thought, I'm starting from scratch. It's Sydney, one of the most renowned places to be hard to get going, get rides. It's competitive. And yeah, Tom, to be fair to him, he was like, no, I promise you, you'll be fine. And even if you don't, like, so what? You've tried it, you've done something different. And I thought, you know what? Whatever, I'll try it. And like, obviously it turned out right. Yeah.
So you came the first time we met you, and you got your feelers out, and people started to sort of know you, and then you returned home. And then you came back again.
Yeah. I must admit,
when as soon as you came back, I thought, right, because we have such a competitive jockey rank in Sydney. But to throw another breed, if you like, in there is amazing, you know, and it kind of shakes it up a little bit, and it also probably gives our boys a little bit of a fright. Oh, wait a minute, we've got a young buck coming along here.
Yeah, I don't know about giving them a fright, but like you've got a lot of good. There are a lot of good riders over here, obviously, and you know you've already got Robbie Dolan now, Tommy Sherry, and you've got other lads that have come over in the past and done well, John Allen down in Melbourne. You know, there's a lot of people that have broken in and shown that English-Irish riders are world class, really. Like, in my eyes,
you can adapt.
Yeah, and like Robbie Dolan's shown it really well the last year. You know, he's virtually all the way through his claim now, and like,
it is very different racing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's massively different.
It's like driving two very different cars.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, going from I don't know. But like, there was already good lads over here that come from home, albeit Robbie didn't have that many rides in Ireland, but he saw it as an opportunity. Equally, Tommy Sherry didn't have that much experience at home, but he's coming over, and he's just, like, he's ploughing through the provincials. I think he must be only a couple of winners behind for champion provincial jockey, and he's an apprentice, which is ridiculous to think. But like, I don't know, it's something from home that the riding style just seems to be adaptable to wherever you go in the world, which is pretty cool.
It's amazing, isn't it? So you came back out the second time, and we're all well acquainted now. And I think it'd be fair to say that the Australians sort of opened their arms up and sort of said, "In you get, back you come," like you've said, like almost like you've never been away, and you've had plenty of opportunity.
Yeah, which is it's crazy, really, because I went home middle of February last year. Obviously, I had a great year at home, numbers wise. Coming back, I thought, and obviously I knew there'd be a few people that'd be willing to put me on a couple of horses, but like, did not think I'd be coming back to ride however many city winners. Did not think I'd be coming back to ride a $2 million winner. Like, it doesn't happen. No, it doesn't happen. And I'm extremely fortunate in the fact that the Australian trainers and owners' mindset seems to be, if you're willing to sort of put yourself out there and just ride, they've rewarded me for it, which is it's a pretty nice feeling that, like I said earlier, like starting from scratch. No one knew my name last year, and now I've sort of been able to. Yeah, it's nice.
You're in there when you go to the New South Wales jockey page. You look at Metropolitan jockeys. Your name's on the list.
Yeah,
we know you. You're part of the furniture.
Yeah, and like for as long as I can make it a trip every winter, like it'd be great, because there's not many places, and not guarantee success, because by all means I could come back next year and struggle to go. Yeah, forgotten about me. But like it's a great place for opportunities, and like I've loved every minute that I've come over here the last couple of years, and I pushed George Wood hard to come, because when he couldn't go back to America because of his visa, I promised him, like Tom Ward did to me, whatever. I promised
the land of opportunity.
This is different class, and Cameron Noble is a new apprentice. He's just come. Not many people have seen him yet, but like very good rider. Struggled for opportunity.
I think he won the Air Gold Cup, didn't he?
He did, yeah. Dead heated. Yeah. Baron Bolt. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like very good rider, but just struggled for opportunity at home, and he's the perfect rider for out here. Like he's tidy, he's stylish, he's switched on.
Have we got more jockeys at home, or do we have more here? What would you say the difference is in opportunities?
I think at home it's very hard to get big race rides, because it's dominated by a top handful, and because it's dominated by the top jobs. Over here there's big money races and big opportunities to be had. There's no retainers, there's no set jobs. It's almost a bit of a free-for-all, and it kind of lends itself to it swinging everyone's direction at some point. Whereas at home it's like it's a closed shop. Realistically, it's a closed shop. Unless you can get your foot in the door and become one of those go-to jockeys, either for when the top 5 can't ride all of their retained horses, or you land one of the top 5 jobs. It's a very hard, competitive place to be to get good rides.
It's amazing. It's really actually it's quite rewarding to hear that Australia, because Australia has done so much to put the racing on the map, and I think they do a tremendous job of it. And to have so many young riders come and be successful and enjoy this success is lovely to hear, actually, and I hope we get more of them, because what a lot of people don't understand about our industry is that it's pretty much in every country now. And you've sort of grown up in racing, so racing's really your home, and you're in a role now that you can go from country to country and still be at home, really, which is amazing. And so going on that, you're a professional sportsman at such a young age, which is amazing. Maybe you can retire early. That would be great.
Be nice, wouldn't it?
But it's not always smooth sailing, though.
No,
it's hard work.
Yeah, like it's. I don't know. I guess it's a pretty taxing way of life. Like
If you're not on horseback, you're on the road.
Yeah, pretty much. And if you're not on the road, you're trying to lose weight or whatever. But no, I think when you first start, you think, when I get to where I want to be, it'll be easier. But like 2 years ago, I was where I wanted to be 3 years ago. Now I'm where I wanted to be 2 years ago. But it's, I suppose, as you go through the ranks, different places, whatever, like the goalposts change and it's equally as hard in a different right. Like now, now I'm not, I'm not scrapping around for rides like when I first started. Now my challenge is trying to sort of keep fresh and go to as many places as I can to ride for as many different people as I can. Like I've got a busy few weeks. Like I'm really fortunate in the fact I've been to Qatar quite a lot this year for some great owners in Al Wasmir Stud. I'm going back out there for them next week and then go home for a couple of days and then Saudi Arabia the next week. Go home for, I think I've got 2 weeks back at home and then come back out here, trying to make sure that you're not emptying the tank and not having yourself in the best condition that you can. Because if you're not in good condition, like you can't ride properly, you can't concentrate properly. So it's like now that's the challenge.
Not burning at both ends.
Yeah, exactly. But like I enjoy it. I love going to different places. I love riding elsewhere, and I relish the challenge.
Because we think about as a jockey, as an athlete, you've got to be fiercely fit, fiercely strong, and light. But your mental game's got to be intact, doesn't it? You really have to be, because you can push your body through physical things, but you really have to be the right place at the right time mentally to be able to travel to all of these countries and ride winners and ride losers and be able to get back up the next day and go again.
Yeah, it's I suppose having that bit of the hunger sort of drives you on through no matter what happens. Like either way, if you're going well, you're going well. It's easy when you're going well. Like everyone will tell you that. No matter what you do in life, if you're doing well at your sort of selected profession or sport, like it's so easy. Like it feels easy, but it's when it's not quite going the way you want it to. Then I guess it feels a bit harder, and then it comes into play the mental side of it and keeping yourself right. And we've recently, obviously, we've lost a couple of people that realistically, the hardship of racing has probably been what's got to them, because it's a hard game, and it's such a shame that as a sport and a community that we can't quite seem to come together to the degree that we should be, like to help people, because it's a taxing way of life, whether you're a jockey, trainer, stable lad, everyone struggles with it, no matter what side of it they're in. So it's kind of, it'd be nice to see like racing as a community come together a little bit more and just support people, right? Because
I think is what a lot of people see is the glamour. We have great races, and it is we're all ecstatic at the end of the day because our athletes have came through for us. We've got prize money and we've won prestigious races, but it does take a toll, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
And there's more bad days than good, but mostly people when they see you doing well. That's why they tend to know you. So a lot of people probably don't realize the taxing of being a professional athlete and being strong and being light and being a part of it and being there with a smile on your face every day and copping the bad rides and saying right out next day. It's a big thing, and I think for you being such a young sportsman, I think you've handled that so well. And we love having you here in Australia. It's we're quite lucky actually to be able to see you do that. And I think you're fantastic for racing and see you go from country to country and learn. I think that's amazing. So I hope that we get to see you again.
I'll be back.
I'd really love to see Holly Doyle up here. I mean, last season she won 112 winners?
I think 116 for the year
16,
altogether, yeah.
Which is the most a female jockey's ever ridden in Britain.
Yeah, and like, it was some effort as well, really, because like Josie rode 106 was the previous record. And I think, I might be wrong, I think she had a claim for part of that year. But like, Holly's literally she's gradually sort of built up. There's been no breakout year. There was no sort of horse that's just suddenly put her on the map. It's just been, she's grafted through. She landed a very good job with Archie Watson at the right time. But that was through no fluke at all. And she's just carried it on through. Like, she's carried on through, and like, she's on 27, 28 winners this year already. Like, to ride that quantity of winners in a month in January when it's not quiet, but it's quieter. Like, that just shows her work ethic, and dedication, exactly. And like, hopefully that just continues through the year, and she can find one or two high grade horses with Archie or with other trainers that can just take her on to that next. Yeah, because it's wonderful riding a lot of winners in a year. Like, stats are great. I'm terrible. I love a stat.
But it's tough slog because she has to drive up one end of the country to get it. Isn't it?
Yeah,
and it's not
exactly.
We see the winners in the saddle, but there's a lot of hours in the car, and in the gym and riding out in the morning. So I think that's an amazing accolade. I think it's, both of you would be so lucky to be living in such a professional household, doing so well, which is amazing. Tom, thank you so much for joining us. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I think you've had a fantastic stint here in Australia, and we follow you a lot when you go home, and I hope that you come back and grace us again.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Thoroughbred Network. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and keep up to date with all our future guests on our website, thethoroughbrednetwork.com.au.